Holy cow, what a draft! Hello, Sceptres fans. Hope you enjoyed the draft. We have some pretty substantial players that you might have heard a lot about over the past however many months in anticipation of this. And there are some players that maybe weren't quite on your radar. But first and foremost, let's take a look at the 8th overall pick in our first round that Toronto was able to snag, Kirsten Sims. Now, I'm expecting that you heard a pretty good chunk. She was very highly touted going into this draft, and I think a lot of people were surprised that she fell to 8th. Not that 8th is anything to sneeze at all. But this is a player that has won just about everything you can win. From what I see, she's got 4 NCAA titles. She's a reigning Olympic gold medalist. She's got a world championship gold, a world championship silver. She does it all. But looking at more specific individual numbers, in 22-23, her first year at the University of Wisconsin with the Badgers, in 41 games, she got 16 goals and 16 assists for a total of 32 points. Now, the following year, 23-24, in 39 games, she had 33 goals, 42 assists for 75 points. She, more than doubled her point total in 1 year. She more than doubled her goal total in 1 year. And that's still 2 years ago. The following year after that, in another 41 games, 25 goals and 47 assists for 72 points. Pretty consistent, pretty reliable, not bad at all. That is absolutely crazy. And then the most recent season, her previous one with Wisconsin, in 25-26, she played 31 games with 26 goals, 33 assists, and 59 points. Now, that looks to be about on pace if she played the full 41 games, or 40-ish games that she had played the 3 seasons prior. Looks like she's gonna be hitting right in and around that 70 odd point mark again. So this is a goal scorer, this is a playmaker, a sniper, a dangler, and Toronto, who has hemorrhaged our forward group for the past 2 seasons between expansion and free agency, especially this year, losing Watts and Comfer. Oh my gosh! Do we need a player like this? She is going to inject some serious life into the lineup. I'm really excited to see her play. She was impressive at the Olympics, even if her points aren't necessarily grand there. This player is incredible. I'm really looking forward to see her transition into the professional league. I am excited, and you should be too. Next up, Toronto's second round pick, the 20th overall, they selected Jamie Nelson out of the University of Minnesota, another forward to add to a really bleeding forward group in Toronto. She played 5 full seasons in the NCAA, and all of them are pretty impressive, and she seems to be growing and developing and getting better and better and better every year. According to Elite Prospects, in her first year with the NCAA in 2020-2021, in 18 games, she had 8 goals, 7 assists for 15 points. Awesome. In the 22-23 season in the NCAA with the Minnesota State University, in 29 games, she only had 5 goals but had 22 assists for 27 points. Once again, just shy of that point a game mark, but that's really good to see that playmaking prowess getting that amount of assists. And then 23-24 season again with Minnesota State, in 38 games she got 20 goals, 10 assists for 30 points. So kind of maybe getting a bit more goal scoring responsibility put onto her, stepping into a more senior role, and is playing more games, getting more seniority, getting more ice time, I would have to think as well. 30 points in her third season is pretty excellent. 24-25, also had 30 points in 37 games, 8 goals, 22 assists. Again, that playmaking skill. So it seems like this player is someone who will do whatever you need her to do. Kind of like Blair Turnbull, if you look at the Sceptres' current roster. If you need her to score, she'll score. If you need her to get assists and pass it to someone who can score, she'll do that too. Right? Puck movers are very valuable. And in her most recent season, after transferring into the University of Minnesota from Minnesota State in 25-26, in 39 games, so the most games she's played, she had 11 goals, 31 assists for 42 points, finally cracking over that point-a-game marker. She seems also to be very responsible with her penalties. Only 6 penalty minutes in 39 games. That's crazy. But she really surged ahead in that final season and is, I think, really primed and prepped for a professional season, getting a bit of a springboard there from her most recent NCAA campaign. I'm really excited to see this player. I'm really thrilled to see how she's going to plug into the lineup and see what Coach Rayon can do with her. With Toronto's third round pick, the 32nd overall, they took their first defender of the draft in Brooke Disher. In Brooke Disher's first season with Boston University in 22-23, in 34 games, she had 7 goals and 10 assists for 17 points. But she did have 28 penalty minutes. And 23-24, 35 games, 3 goals, 8 assists for 11 points, 10 penalty minutes. So she cleaned herself up a bit, I think, after maybe too physical, too rough, too aggressive first season. She dialed it back, started to understand what's good, what's not. So that, to me, seems like a fast learner. 24-25, she transferred from Boston University to The Ohio State University in the NCAA. In 40 games, she had 3 goals and 8 assists for 11 points, same as last season. Very consistent, very reliable. 25-26, once again with Ohio State, 41 games, 2 goals, 13 assists for 15 points. So once again, seeing a bit of a springboard, a bit of a surge ahead in that final year in the NCAA that these players are seeming to have, getting a bit more ice time, a bit more responsibility, a bit more seniority on these teams. Now, I'm not too worried about Toronto's defense. We have our top 3 locked up in Fast, Shelton, and Flanagan. I have a hard time seeing Monroe going anywhere other than Toronto, especially considering Flanagan is signed. So, yeah, we have one empty spot in our third pair, and will Shelbin stay or go? Who's to really say? But if Shelbin stays, I think this is going to be a really exciting player to put alongside Shelbin as your third pairing D. Takes some of that pressure off of Fast and Shelton, who play way too many minutes. But I think this player has some really good potential. I think she has some space to learn the way this league works quickly, as we saw between her first and second season of the NCAA. I think she's going to really want to prove herself and really want to work hard and ingrain herself in this lineup and be a mainstay. Toronto has a bit of a floaty defense. We've had Condis for 3 seasons now that's been a healthy scratch basically all the time unless we absolutely need her. Baskin, who knows if she's going to stay or if she's going to get offered more of a permanent roster position on another team, or if she's going to, hey, maybe get the permanent roster position on the Sceptres. Either way, I think Disher is really going to be fighting tooth and nail to get that spot on the Sceptres roster, and I think she's going to work like an absolute dog to get it. That is the type of player and person she strikes me as, so I'm really looking forward to see what she can do in the blue and gold jersey. Jumping back up to forwards with the 4th round pick for the Sceptres is Jane Kuehl. She is out of Princeton University, spent 4 years there in the NCAA, and from what I was able to see, she seems like the type of player that is really going to get into those dirty areas and get those greasy goals, fight for rebounds, fight for positioning, be a bit physical out front, and make life hell for the opposing goalie. And we love to see that. 4 years at Princeton, 22-23 in the NCAA. She played 31 games, 3 goals, 4 assists for 7 points. 23-24, 32 games, 7 goals, 7 assists for 14 points. 24-25, 32 games again, 5 goals, 14 assists. 25-26, she has 34 games, the most so far. 13 goals, 14 assists, 27 points. Once again, seeing that surge ahead in their final season of the NCAA. I love that. I love the idea that it's going to get used as a springboard into the professional league. I'm curious to see how she will fit into the roster, especially in that bottom six with players like Gentry, players like Van Wieren, players that are a bit more aggressive and grimy and rough. Toronto could easily make just a line that will sandwich you into the boards and grind you down to dust if they wanted to with these players that they have and this player that they've drafted in Jane Cool. I really want to see her, getting in front of the net, getting in those greasy areas, picking up rebounds, getting those garbage goals. They don't ask how, they ask how many, and this player seems like someone who's absolutely a specialist at that, can identify those quick bounces, identify those rebounds, get the puck to these loose areas even amongst all of the mess and chaos and disaster that so often is present when you're near the goal crease. In the bottom six, I think especially, she's going to have loads of opportunity to work into this lineup and make a role for herself on this team. I'm looking forward to it. Moving into the 5th round of the draft, the Sceptres took Emerson O'Leary out of Princeton University. Back-to-back Princeton picks for the Sceptres. In 4 years with Princeton, this is a very promising playmaking forward. Again, another forward. In 22-23 with Princeton, in 31 games, she had 7 goals and 4 assists for 11 points. 23-24 jumped way ahead in 32 games, having 7 goals once again and 25 assists for 32 points, officially making her a point-per-game player in just her second year in the NCAA. Moving on to her third year, 24-25, once again in 32 games, she had 7 goals for her third straight year, 29 assists, 36 points in 32 games, and 25-26, her most recent season playing hockey in the NCAA, 34 games, going down to 2 goals and 22 assists for 24 points. I'm seeing this as a player, they were just saying on the broadcast for the draft, this is a quiet playmaking forward. She's going to get you a couple of goals, probably pretty important ones, but very quiet, will play her role and play it to an absolute T. With the ridiculous amount of assists that she is getting. Now, I'm looking at the way the Sceptres roster is set up right now. We have Kirsten Sims, we have Jamie Nelson from this draft on the team currently. You're going to have Turnbull is expected to re-sign, and you have Zanin is still there. You have these players that are capable of being these strong finishers, but you gotta have people to set them up. Not everyone can be snipers, but not everyone can be playmakers. You gotta have that mix, and it seems like Gina Kingsbury is actually doing a pretty decent job at picking the players that Toronto needs and getting the roles that the Sceptres need filled in this entry draft. Emerson O'Leary, she seems like a player that is really going to fit in very well in Toronto's bottom six, middle six, somewhere in there, depending on how the coach decides to lay things out. But she is someone who's going to get the right people the puck. She's going to be able to find those passing lanes. She's going to be able to see these lines and cracks through the defense and get up on these rushes and make these plays and get them puck to the players who can put it in the back of the net. And I am really looking forward to see how she slots into the roster. Getting that ridiculous amount of assists and jumping so far ahead in only her second year in the NCAA and staying there. Very consistent numbers from O'Leary and a really early success and maintaining success. I'm excited to see what she's able to do with the Sceptres and with some of the players we've already taken and the players we already have established. It's going to be really exciting to watch. I think she's going to fit in very nicely. And with Toronto's final pick of the draft at 68th overall, they took defender Alyssa Regalado. Spent her last 4 years at Cornell in the NCAA, but is from Mississauga. This is a player that she described herself as having a 200-foot game, and this is the thing with defensive minded defenders, like ones who aren't necessarily going to be on your power play, ones who aren't necessarily going to be joining the rush all the time, making crazy passes, is that the stats on most accessible places for defensive minded defenders and 200-foot defenders aren't really there. Like, it's hard to see what someone who is getting in everyone's way in the defensive zone actually does, statistically speaking, a lot of the time. But I'm going to run through it anyway. In her past 4 years at Cornell University in the NCAA, she had 32, 34, 35, and 33 games played, respectively, and 15, 10, 20, and 19 points in all those seasons. Each season, more assists than goals, peaking at 7 goals and 18 assists in different seasons. But this is someone I think, if she has the opportunity, is going to make use of it. I think someone who can be a really good shutdown unit, someone who can thrive on a penalty kill, someone who is going to get in everyone's way on the opposing team, someone who's not going to let passes through, who's not going to let shots through, and can still contribute those couple of goals and those handfuls of assists night in and night out if she gets the opportunity to do so. That's what it seems like to me that Regalado is going to bring to this team, where Toronto does have a lot of offensive minded defenders. You know, you look at Fast, very offensive minded. Shelton, I think, leans offense but is more of a two-way. Flanagan as well leans offense but is more of a two-way. Monroe is probably your true two-way defender on the team. This is someone I think that can really hang back and make life difficult for anyone trying to get into her zone. She seems like she's going to be able to shut players down and can still throw up points if it's asked of her. With that, that is the end of this draft summary. This is going to be a very different roster than we saw last year, which in itself was a very different roster than we saw the year before. But this team is young and I think they're punchy. You know, if you look at Toronto last year, underratedly, they were very physical, but they couldn't score anything. It seems like we have a few ways to up the physicality a little bit, maybe make it a bit more cohesive so you don't have to put the pressure of being physical and aggressive and running people over on someone like Blair Turnbull, who also has the pressure to score the most goals on the team. You know, if they can divvy it up and give each player a bit more distinct responsibilities, then it looks like we have the makings to construct a really solid roster here for the Sceptres with these draft picks they've taken, and seeing what we already have in the cupboard on our lineup sheet before we go into free agency. I think there's a lot to look forward to as Sceptres fans, especially after the disappointment that was last season. I personally am looking forward to it. What do you guys think? Have you gotten to see any of these players live in person? You know, do you have any additional insights that I might not have been able to find? Let me know down below. And are you excited? Are you looking forward to it? Do you like what you're seeing here? Do you think Gina Kingsbury did a good job with the players that she was able to take? That is it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. Click like if you enjoyed it and subscribe if you want more of this. And free agency, I will do my best to keep up with and stay on top of. I'll see you there.